welcome to Who Does What was Mumbo Jumbo for this, the July the 23rd, something like that. I mean, it's irrelevant me giving you dates because the video will drop when they drop, usually a week out of date. So I'm giving you a date and then you go, brilliant, it's taken them this long to post the video, of which there should have been one dropped very recently, which was for about a week ago that I recorded. Just the morning I'd woken up where Trump had potentially maybe not been assassinated. Anyway, we said enough about that. And then other stuff has happened. There's been great political upheaval since all that has occurred, and it's kind of lovely, I'm sure. Anyway, nonsense aside, board games is important. So yes, I'm late for video. The dog is here. He's settled at the moment. There's builders on the roof next door trying to fix a roof which keep hitting hammers and stuff, though it's quiet at the moment. Of course, would be the day I've got some time off and I could do this. Of course, all this is happening, which then triggers the dog. Stuff will happen, so we'll see if we can get through this video without him being sick, something exploding, or the roof falling in, which would be great. How are you all anyway? I hope you've had a lovely time since we last didn't speak. I spoke at you. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've been playing games, of which... a segue into what I've been playing. Friday night recently, there was four of us. I went along to Friday, and Bob was in a relatively good mood, so that was something. We played RoboRally. This is the original, actually, Avalon Hill version that I have, that I've had for many years now. It has been subsequently reprinted a couple of times. It was done a couple of years back, maybe longer. I can't remember who published that one, but it came out kind of almost a mass market version of it. Streamlined down, they tweaked some of the powers and stuff. I have played it. I have vague recollections that they've kind of done something to kind of speed it up, because RoboRally, the original RoboRally, was a game that could run long. And then it's more recently been republished by Renegade Games, the guys behind things like, I was going to look and it's not there, but it's up there, all the way up, Clank, and other stuff. Anyway, yes, Renegade Games, so they've republished it. There's a cut, it's quite expensive from what I recall. I always remember this being relatively cheap, especially my Yankee old cardboard held together Avalon Hill one, which is not the height of board game production, one would say. But yeah, it's more recently up, and the Renegade put it out, and as I say, there's quite a few boxes of it. There was always expansion bits to RoboRally, but they look like they've really doubled down on that. I haven't really given it a look, as I've got a copy of it, which is perfectly functional. I am aware I've rambled on for some period of time, actually not explaining what RoboRally is to any of you out there who have not played it. It is essentially, sort of, Battlebots, the board game. Up to 8 of you, I think it is in my version anyway. That may differ. All little robots in a preset arena, which can have lasers in it and conveyor belts and holes you fall into and pits and stuff and things and nonsense. And you control your little robot by programming it with program cards, which you randomly dealt at the start every turn, and the cards have a variety of directions on them. Turn left, turn right, go forward, reverse, stuff like that. Do a U-turn. So you've got these cards on there, and what you have to do on your turn, you program out 5 of these cards from this hand of cards you have, and then once everyone's done that, the round begins, and it's card by card by card. These cards are turned over. You then move your bot in turn order, which is directed by numbers on the actual cards, as well as the movement. There is like a number. The higher the number means it breaks ties and is first in order. So what you essentially get over a period of time of these cards being played and everything moving around, depending on the more people, the more chaotic this game is, and there is some chaos, level of chaos to it, is depending on the turn order, you can have a situation where you've planned your moves, all very good. However, due to an unfortunate series of events, either A, you've not done a very good job of programming and walked onto a conveyor belt maybe and got spun round or moved down a path, or been bumped by another robot that's nudged you, so you went a different path, things go wrong. You might also get stiffed by the turn order, where you planned everything else and then someone actually moves onto something before you, which completely catastrophically buggers up what you've pre-programmed. And it's fun. It is a fun game. I forgot, I haven't played it for a while actually. It's kind of sat around. I was like, RoboRally, I've not played it. Somewhere around here was the bag with it in. I could have, there we go. As we're talking about it, I did take some photos. I was ready to, oh, piss off, come on. RoboRally, there you go, here's my old version of RoboRally. So, yes, it is that, and essentially what you're doing. The book that my version comes with a bunch of courses and differing levels of difficulty. That would be the word I was looking for. And sometimes they have special rules on them. Some of them are for co-op fights, and some of them it's length and all that sort of stuff. So you get this. You can make up by the tiles that are in the box. Here, there's a weird insert in this copy that I've still kept for some reason. Yes, you get a variety of tiles that you can put down, and they do different things. Some of them more chaotic than others. These can be bolted together in preset, as I say, preset courses. Or you can just make your own crazy course up. There's stuff like repair stations on there. I'm going to get that bit of cardboard on the floor, very professional. Repair stations on there and other stuff that you can do to repair and upgrade your bot. You get cards that give you sort of extra add-ons, sort of like abilities. And it's all good fun. And it's silly. It's pretty straightforward. I always remember games that had taken forever. I think it was the dog. I mean, this is God. I don't even know how old that is. This version is, well, it says 2005 with Wizards of the Coast, so it's not that, well, I say it's not that old, it's 20 fucking years old. Where did time go? 2 to 8, yes, it plays. I'm suspecting the new version from Renegade has like expansions to add more players, is my suspicion, rather than one box you got out the gate with everything into play up to 8 players. You could just buy extra tiles to add to courses for that version, which I never did, so that's never happening. Anyway, so there you go, RoboRally. Fun. I enjoy RoboRally. I should have done could have done a thing, see? They're putting this here and just like, that would have been the professional thing to do. Front of the box the right way up would have been an even more professional thing to do. But I didn't do that. So that was awkward, wasn't it? Right, RoboRally. Then Hitsy Road. Well, as the bag of stuff is here, Hitsy Road. Ta-da! Do it right, professionally. There you go, the box is the right way up. This is a Martin Wallace game. We like a bit of Martin Wallace around here. I like that he comes at designs with a mix of Euro and Euro trash. Yeah, Ameritrash, not Eurotrash. Something else entirely different. A Euro and Ameritrash style of game. So you get that sort of that dice rolling silliness and thematic-iness of the Ameritrash mixed up, kind of slamming up against sometimes some quite Euro-y mechanics of doing stuff. And I like that he is always playing in that design space. Hit and miss sometimes with his stuff, but on the whole, mostly a hit. So hit the road anyway, as I've said. This was relatively cheap for a while ago. You used to be able to pick this up. Basically, they were giving it away. You bought a bowl of soup and you got this game with it. It was kind of what it felt like, probably a few years back. I don't know if that's still the case. So anyway, Hit the Road is a kind of push your luck game, a bit like Oregon Trail. Up to 4 of you play it, and you're essentially survivors in the zombie apocalypse, and you're trying to round after round after round across this post-apocalyptic wasteland without dying. You have a certain limited amount of survivors, and essentially what happens is there's a bidding round at the start of the game where everyone bids for turn order, which can be important, because in the next round the first player will put out a series of cards. There's 6 cards in total. There's 2 cards in each route, essentially. There'll be 4 routes on the table. So you will pick one of these routes and play through both the cards. Now, the turn order at this point becomes very important because some of these cards can offer a lot of resources, lots of good stuff, and other cards can have zombies and horrible stuff on them where you have to fight or lose, make choices basically, and lose stuff. And everything is diminishing returns. All of the commodities you get during the game are also used in the bidding phase. So you are sacrificing either ammo, fuel, or adrenaline, which are all used in the combat rounds or throughout the round order to do stuff. And they're all very useful. So I like that. I like that designy space there where you're having to bid with stuff that you need to get the turn order to pick the thing. So there's a lot of kind of like, oh God, well, if I get stiffed and I have to just take that, I'm going to die. And as what you get is a deck of 3 cards, basically 3 decks of cards, which are the difficulty levels of the wasteland. And as you go through this deck, you start on level 1s and they come out, and then as it drifts into the level 2 decks, locations and stuff get a bit trickier, and so on and so forth. And there's tokens you can pick up of certain cards that can be then used later on on other cards to buff you or to penalise you. And it's all doing all that. Very quick, very lean, actually. The combat is done with dice. You have, when you attack a bunch of zombies, you have, depending how many zombies there are, they're coming towards you. You have a round of a ranged combat if you want, where you spend ammo to be able to roll dice. These dice have skulls on them, basically. I have a variety of little things on them. Here's a dice, which you probably won't be able to see from here. But I'll try. They have a skull with the little lightning bolt, which is the adrenaline, which basically means you will kill a zombie with that dice, and you could spend an adrenaline token to be able to kill another one. That's a hit. So in the ranged round, you can roll these dice, and the only things what account are these targets. They are ranged hits. There's blank faces on it. There is that, which is an adrenaline, which essentially you can spend a adrenaline to kill another zombie. I'm aware I showed you the skull just a minute ago, and as I'm talking to myself, I've got that wrong. The skull I showed you, the skull actually means one of your survivors dies, and you've got 4 to start with and your own meeple character. Now, you can lose it or use an adrenaline to stop them dying. The key thing is you've got to keep your survivors alive towards the end of the round, well, at the end of the game. The last person standing, it will normally win it. It's very unlikely more than one, if even one person gets through to the end. There's the black dice, which is the standard dice. Later on, you encounter hordes of zombies, which basically have more skulls on them. And that one is like an instant kill. You can't deflect it. So that's it. So you're basically going round after round, bidding, going across cards, invariably dying or horrible things happening to you. And the plan, as I say, is to be the last man standing if you can. Rarely does that happen. I've had games of this where just no one survives. It is all luck based in the combat. You are rolling dice, if that's your thing. I quite like it. It's manic, it's deranged. I also like the aesthetic of the game. So the actual idea of all the thematic aesthetic of the game is, I'm going to show you the inside of the box, doesn't really help, is that this has kind of been combined out of various bits and pieces from other board games or other bits they've scavenged in the wasteland to make this game. And it's kind of a nice little design aesthetic of just like bits being reused. So there's like these are the turn order markers, but actually it's a loyalty card or it's a credit card and things like that. There's some in the decks of cards, there's like reused 7 Wonders bits and pieces, and I like all that. It's needless, doesn't need to have been done, kind of Fallout-y-ish vibes to a certain extent, but I just like that extra step of, do you know what, it leaned into the whole thing, and it works thematically. It's all really nicely well done. It's a really great little package, actually, if you like that push your luck bidding style game with the zombie theme. For what it was a steal, I think it was like 12 quid or something, or whatever you could pick this up. I'm sure it's something like that I paid for it. If it's still at that price, you can see it at that. If any of that is interest you, it's an absolute banger, really. For a 4-player game, you can just get out and play in probably about a half hour, depending on if you know what you're doing, to an hour. It's good fun. So yes, Hit Zero from Martin Wallace. We played that as well. This is very informative, this video this week. Then Risk Legacy, which I don't have the box here, and I'm not going to bother going and get it because I'm not. There were some photos I think I took. So Risk Legacy, as I covered I think the other week, is a Risk game. You're playing Risk with the legacy elements. It was the very first legacy game that came out by Rob Davio, mass market game, and more very recently has seen somewhere it's about 17 quid to buy. You know, I picked mine up about 20 odd quid, which is still a bargain. If you can see it for sub 20 quid, absolute steal. Really enjoying that. So we played a couple of games of it actually, because they whip through, which is a mystery to Risk with the. Basically, you get these red stars, which are victory points, and by claiming other people's territories and having red stars and your own territories or your own base camps, then you can score 4 points, you win the game. You can trade 4 cards in at the start of your round to also get a star. So it's kind of, they move fast, they're real fast games, especially the early doors ones where everyone's kind of getting, starts with either with stars or can gain them pretty quickly. You've got people whipping up, so we whipped through. We played a few games. Jamie was really enjoying it. I was really nice to go back to Risk Legacy and re-up some packages and more stuff's happened, and it's kind of this evolving story, and it's wacky, it's crazy, and it just throws some really cool little mechanisms as the game progresses into it. And it's just, you know, it's Risk, I know, and Risk is what it is. It's a Risk, if you don't know, is basically a game of, it's kind of a dudes on the map. One of the earliest ones of conflict across Europe in this version actually is the world as we know it in the version in Risk Legacy. You're basically fighting, and you essentially mass troops on the board. You have a turn of moving them, and you fight, which is basically you going into a fight, rolling dice, your opponent rolling dice, your highest score wins. You keep fighting with your miniatures, and you fight across the board and take territories and gain more stuff and fight. And that's it. It's very easy. It's a mass market game, as you know. The base game of it, the only thing I would say really for the base game Risk is it can go on forever. And this is the nice thing about the Legacy game. It really does just whip through games, especially early doors. And you're putting stuff on the board and stickering things and all that. Really great. I've raved about Risk Legacy for years. It is still one of my favourite gaming experiences. And I am enjoying this replay of it. Tony's not, I don't think. Tony seems to have been totally bamboozled by Risk. I don't think he's played it ever, which I find strange. But yeah, he's so far not really vibing with it. But I think he will get into his element, because the cool thing about Risk Legacy, not to spoil too much, but I am going to spoil a bit. You have factions you start with, and they start little semi. The word is failing me. But anyway, they are semi. they're asynchronous. That was the word I was looking for. There's a little bit of asynchronous play at the start with your factions. You put a stick on at the very start to give your faction a little bit of a leg up in a certain direction. And then as the game progresses, more stickers can go down on these factions, which changes things up, gives them different abilities. If they die at a certain point, you're eliminated, you get a faction ability come on, and all other stuff happens, and they evolve, and through the play you can kind of tweak and change them into something else. But the cool thing about it is, initially you roll a dice at the start and the higher player picks a faction, so there's always a chance that these factions can change hands. You may have one you really like playing regularly, and you may even start of an area of the map using the legacy elements, kind of adapting it to your strategies and your buff. But there is nothing stopping what happening if you roll a lower dice, and there is another mechanism comes in later to allow a bit more choice in this stuff, for someone else to grab that faction that you normally play and play it, and even potentially tweak it and put elements on it. So I like that it can involve, you don't get the situation where someone is constantly bulldozing everyone, because there's always the option that someone can pick up that faction and use it against them. So that's kind of cool. And there's ever-evolving morphing board, Risk board, which is excellent. So there you go. Risk Legacy. You are missing out if you've never played it. You can get at least 4 of you around the table. I think it plays up to 5. It does. It's a good storming night's entertainment, and more so. And for 17 odd quid, it's an absolute steal. So there's that. And the last week we played a bit more Res Arcana, which I can't, Res Arcana is fantastic. Again, that's more recently, saw it somewhere, I think Canada or somewhere, for like 22 quid, which if you can see it at that price, buy it, because it's an absolute banger of a game. Either of those two, you'll more than get your money's worth of play out of both of those two if you get it. Great. Anyway, that's enough of that. I think we should do some news.
Here is the news.
Hello, news. So, shirt change, because this is actually filmed later, because a whole segment I filmed after this, I then lost, didn't film it. So I'm doing it all again. So that's always fun. And that was a lengthy segment, so generally... Anyway, cracking on. News cracking on for Quackalope. Quackalope, if you don't know who he is, YouTube content creator, run into a big load of shit recently with Aeon Trespass, something like that. Big Kickstarter, load of miniatures. Essentially was caught kind of extorting the developers of it. Sort of, really, that's what was happening. He basically released 2 videos, a positive and negative, one damning, one delighting, and at the same sort of time came to light a letter or emails that he'd sent to the developers of this game, basically saying, if you pay me $5 to $8 grand or something, I'll do a series of lovely, really gorgeous videos that make your game look fantastic as how wonderful it is. If you don't, I'm going to release this video, this horrible one. They didn't agree to that, and then he puts up the 2 videos. Then one got took down, then they're both up, I don't know. Then another video came up after it all went shit show, an absolute shit show. Watch the Quakageddon video, you'll get more of a blow-by-blow account of it, of him trying to recover this situation. Generally a shit show. He lost quite a lot of subs at the time. I don't think he's ever really recovered from that. He is still ticking on with still quite a few subs, more than I would say he deserves, but there we go. Anyway, all that aside, that only brings me to him because parallel to that is Arcs. Arcs is the big Leader Games Kickstarter thing that's delivering kind of now. It's a big sort of space 4X-ish vibe thing. I mentioned it in a previous video. Shut Up and Sit Down did a glowing, like 2-hour long epic video over 2 videos of this game. Jesse Quackalope, has put out, I'd noticed when I was doing some research into Arcs and some other bits and pieces, that he'd put out like 4 or 5 videos in very quick succession. One of them actually name checks Shut Up and Sit Down in it. All of them are kind of semi-negatively targeted in the videos, usual clickbait shit, and so it kind of just feels like ambulance chasing at this point, because they are all within a day or two of the Shut Up and Sit Down video hitting and going huge. He then buffs out a series of videos, one actually name checking, as I say, Shut Up and Sit Down, another one just doing a rules check or something else, and something else and something else, all within 1 or 2 days. Of him actually doing a video, which was a review, and I use the term loosely, of him unboxing the box. So how he could be doing rules checks and playthroughs and stuff, God willing, in that short period of time of anything actually legitimately having a opinion, is baffling to me. Clearly Shut Up and Sit Down have had that game for a while. They've played it a lot, and their opinion is based on that. His opinion is based on wanting to get a lot more clicks, and they're doing very well, is how I'm reading it. Do what you will. But anyway, still up to his own bullshit. Don't give him the clicks. Don't give him the time of day. It is a bit of a tragic state of affairs, but hey, you go, beta's going to click. So there's that. Polygon did an article on Tabletop Golden Age of Kickstarter was gone, and there's no longer, the sky is falling and all that sort of stuff. To a certain degree, I've been kind of chanting that mantra. I do think Kickstarter no longer really offers the value it used to, for a combination of things. The world shipping crisis, COVID, all the costs related to all of that. The introduction of VAT in the UK especially hit hard. Some of the early Cool Mini or not Kickstarters basically were VAT free, and you were getting a big chunk of product for your bucks. All of that is tightened up and changed, so there is less value for it. I appreciate that, and there's a lot of noise out there. Although, as an example, Arcs, Leader Games Arcs, that was kickstarted a good couple of years ago now, I believe. I missed the boat on it, didn't really follow it. And actually, the value for money those backers are getting from that is not bad, because they're getting the Blighty Reach, the base game, and everything else all in that package, which I think is about $100, whereas it's going to cost you more than that to pick all that up in retail. So, there is still value to be had if you take the punt at the right time, and I think they've appreciated that, what they originally foresee as that campaign box has changed throughout the development process. But hey, plus things like stretch pay I think is actually a good option. Originally I was very with that, because it's kind of feels a credit agreement, but to be honest, I backed the latest Nemesis retaliation on that with the stretch pay and paid it over 4 or 5 months, which just stretched payments, whereas before, how was I going to do that? Probably banging it on a credit card. Didn't really have the free cash available. So, yes, I agree in some ways. It is not the value it used to perceivably give you. I think of Arcadia Quest and other things that I backed and got ridiculously huge boxes of plastic. Having said all of that, of all those ridiculously boxes of plastic, actually it turns into a ball ache having to get all the boxes of plastic out to play the game, and actually adds to the setup times, adds to a lot of blah 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 blah. So it's a perceived value, I think, at the end of the day. I don't Kickstart as much as I used to, or GameFound or whatever, because I just don't have the spare cash, and more importantly, actually, I'd probably much rather these days, 9 times out of 10, just go and buy a game that's on the shelf, a tangible product that I can pick up, take home and play. If it's something that's going to get me to back, it will have to be something that I'm like, oh, I fucking love that, I really want that. Is there a danger it's going to not come to retail? Possibly. Is it a danger it's going to be ridiculously expensive at retail? Possibly. And a theme I enjoyed. So that will pull me in. Nemesis, I have got the previous 2. It was a different thing. I've, again, perceived value. I've given it a punt. Worst case, I can get rid of that and get my money back. So, There you go, Kickstarter. What's your opinions on Kickstarter? I'm now going to pause to check the video is videoing, so that I don't have to do this for a third fucking time, because that would get quite frustrating. It is working. What was annoying is actually the video I did not record was far more nuanced, and I did a much better effort of all that. So bollocks to it. The other thing that's going on is it is 10 years anniversary of Scythe coming out, which Not a game I own. A game that's come with some flack from various angles. A game that's beloved by people who love it and has spawned multiple expansions. But just as a retrospective to it, I kind of thought, I've not played it for a while. I found an article on the Who Dares Rolls website, whodaresrolls.com, which you can go and look and read. Ben posted kind of his first feelings and thoughts, about a month in after getting the Kickstarter for it. And I chimed in on the same article with some of my opinions on it, most of which I think I still stand by. Scythe was a huge Kickstarter phenomenon. It probably, to be fair to it, to give it kudos, is one of the early real Kickstarters that kind of pushed the tabletop industry. It's innovative in regards to the production quality of its stuff. Boutique level, really kind of pucker bits of kit, and they'd done Euphoria before it, which was like top level stuff. Scythe again pushed the boundaries of what you should expect in your box, and it did rustle the tabletop industry, and we have seen developments and push the quality of life in components changing in our board games that we get in the high street now, or we would buy from a hobby shop. And a lot of it can stem back from Scythe. So yeah, I think Scythe for me is a game that I was expecting what it was selling me, but it wasn't delivering on that. And that's where I come down on it. It looks, with its gorgeous art and aesthetic and thematics and all that, as this big sort of dudes on a map style game. It's kind of selling itself. It's pitching its tent as this kind of like big mechs fighting in this kind of Napoleonic era game, and it isn't that. That is not what you get. What you're instead getting is more of a tight Euro-y, economic-y action point game with some cool innovations, although a lot of the stuff is borrowed, magpied from other games. We get the double dual layer boards that you're taking stuff off of, which then uncovers something you gain, and a reward which comes directly from Terra Mystica. A game I loved, Terra Mystica, when I first saw that mechanism of that. Do something to take a thing off your board to uncover a power or thing to do. I was like, whoa, this is cool. It's like that sort of, every day's Christmas type feel to it. So it implemented that really well into Scythe. It borrowed heavily from the likes of Kemet and Dune in regards to the combat mechanisms. The Dune's wheel, power wheel is in there, and the weird sort of fog of war cards that Kemet did. All of that is kind of sidled into there. And I'd say I was initially kind of interested in the game until I worked out basically it is this economic sort of game. It's this more economy of action selection stuff with this gorgeous thematic underlaying. It actually, deliberately it penalises you for fighting. You could fight twice to get you points to that, but continuing a campaign of terror and fighting across the board actually is damaging to your economics and your engine you're doing. It doesn't actually help, so it actually penalises you for doing it, which is a weird choice. And that's because the game is basically you completing various tasks, opening stuff on your board or doing the various bits to ding to get a star on this track. And when I think it's 6 stars, I don't remember now, 6 or 8 stars is hit, the game ends. And for me, that always kind of sat as being, all of this heavy grandstanding theatrics and art and production design and gorgeous components, all this stuff, all funneling into this wonderful thing, but ultimately kind of goes in this, I got 10 points, I win! And he's never fixed that, never got away from that with the various expansions and the legacy campaign they brought out, the legacy campaign, the Fenris campaign that came out. None of it actually, from what I recall, ever really fixed that. And in fact, he doubled down on it because Expeditions, the Scythe side crawl, again has this point scoring mechanism in the end of the day. When you score 6 points or whatever it is, bang, it's game over. So that's where I kind of bumped up against Scythe, is that it wasn't the game it kind of portrayed itself off as initially. And the kind of arbitrary sort of end to the game kind of felt a little bit. I know Ben loves it. Ben has a lot of Scythe. I think he has all of the Scythe. And we've played many games of Scythe off his copy because we played the base game a lot, and then we played the Fenris campaign, which had brought in other bits and in various other expansions. So I played it all. And I say, it is fine. It is a fine game. It's a beautiful, gorgeous looking game. Just not for me because it's not doing something I want to do. I've just bumped up again and again. But, it's a pretty cool game and it's done very well. I'm not knocking it for that. For me, it's just not for me, really. I'll play it, but I don't want to own it. Scythe, 10 years on. That's how I feel on it. I think, fair dues to Scythe. It's still going strong. Has spawned a sequel, and certainly it hasn't hurt Jamie Stegmaier's bank balance in any way with the multiple expansions and all the other shit that's come out with it. But yeah, Scythe. What's your thoughts on Scythe 10 years on? And maybe I'll do this maybe this could be a feature, regular feature, the looky backy machine, something like that. Which I didn't name it at the start of the thing, so now it hasn't got titles and everything. It's embarrassing, really, isn't it? The sheer lack of any confidence at all. Very quickly, other stuff. Polyhedron Collider were talking about books, looking for book recommendations. I recommend them the Necroscope Saga, which I recommend to anyone. There's about 15 books in this, but there's the 5 core books, 1 through to 5, the main things you need to read, and what I've read, and there's spin-offs. You can pick and choose. Your mileage may vary. Really great series of books from the now sadly departed Brian Lumley, who left us at the start of the year. Set in the Cold War, I think sort of the 70s crossover to 80s. It is a story of Cold War. It's Russian spies. It's psyops. A character called Harry Keogh, who's is this necroscope. He can talk to the dead. And the interesting concept in here is that, number one, he can talk to the dead, but number two, the dead have continued to extrapolate on their learnings and teachings from life. So a great mathematician has continued to work on maths. Mobius is in the books, and he's kind of continued in the afterlife to take his concepts and run with it and come up with some crazy permutations on that. Anything like Albert Einstein, anyone, all these people, all these various people have gone on in life to do. Harry can speak to them. More importantly, Harry can learn from them and gain the abilities and stuff from the dead, and even raise them up. But the other side of the book, which is very cool, is there's also this whole bunch of vampires that mostly have died out actually in the early books, but they're obviously in the grave, and they kind of function a bit like a Hannibal Lecter situation. They're these kind of leech-like creatures, this kind of like, not like traditional vampires. They are vampires, but they're not traditional. They're more of these biomechanical beasties who kind of infect people with this leech-like thing and control them from inside and morph their bodies into these sort of corrupted forms and all this sort of shit. And they're also sadistic motherfuckers. And yeah, as I say, he encounters, especially in the first couple of books, and more specifically in number 2, one of these guys in the earth, and they kind of manipulate him. Very, as I say, it's very much that Silence of the Lambs vibe of this kind of, or Gollum or any of that sort of stuff, of this guy trying to sort of work his way mentally around these characters, and they taint him. They are this corrupting source, both his mind and physical attributes and all that. And it's a great series of books. Fantastic, I will say. If you've never read the Necroscope books, I recommend the 5 main books. And then if you want to delve deeper, then so be it. Excellent stuff. I have the RPG of it from many years ago, somewhere up there. Don't know what I've done with it now. There's always one I felt that could do with kind of get a board game. It could kind of have an Eldritch horror style board game. I don't know. But if you're like your vampires, you want your horror, you want Cold War and psyops and all that sort of shit, you can do much worse than Necroscope. And I strongly recommend, if you've not read them, give them a punt. I might well start reading them again because it's been a while since I read them. Other than that, cinema, movies and stuff. Well, haven't I been a busy boy? So I went and saw Deadpool Wolverine the other night. That one is quite highly regarded. Everyone's getting excited about it. Oh, it's all good, exciting stuff. I will be honest with you. It is hilarious. It looks gorgeous. The gag rate is just off the charts. Hugh Jackman is great. Everything's funny. It's very violent. It's very funny. It's non-stop Ryan Reynolds. But there's no plot. Really no plot. It's a solid 3, if I'm honest with you. Despite the trailers, it doesn't really advance the MCU in any way whatsoever. Which I kind of felt. The trailers pitched it as being something of maybe this sort of introduction of the mutants, or which it kind of has done, but not really. But it doesn't really interact or intersect at all with the MCU. And in fact, it doesn't really go anywhere. The story goes a long way and ends up straight back where we started again, really. So yeah, it doesn't do any of those things. It is kind of another Deadpool movie with Wolverine in it. Your mileage may vary. I felt it was fine. I did laugh a couple of times. There's some good cameos in it. It all looks gorgeous, and it is stupid and violent and mayhem. Your mileage may vary in regards to Ryan Reynolds and how much you can tolerate Ryan Reynolds being very Ryan Reynolds. I kind of did burn out a little bit towards the end of it. But yeah, that's your thing. I enjoyed the other Deadpools. This just sits alongside them as being neither fantastic above any of that stuff or any worse, really. But I expected, it felt ultimately like a missed opportunity for me. I thought we were going to get something in regards to Marvel trying to hit the reset on the shit show that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the moment. Maybe me misreading the room. But yeah, it's fine. It's just not the second coming. And well, Marvel Jesus is in the movie. It's all right. It's all right. It's fine. It's a good night of popcorn at the movies, but don't go in expecting anything more than just that. It really has no substance beyond that and doesn't really progress anything. But, you know, it is entertaining. But the other thing I did enjoy immensely and had a lot of fun was Hundreds of Beavers. It's a very, very, very low budget movie coming out of the States. They did previously Lake Michigan Monster, I think it is. I've not seen. I might track it down now. This is basically a fur trapper who is fighting against hundreds of beavers. It is shot in black and white. It's very low budget. All the special effects were done in After Effects. It is like a Looney Tunes cartoon in real live action, crossed with video games, Tex Avery cartoons, weird, just all sorts of shit. It's just got everything thrown into this mix. Bond, James Bond, just wanton violence, slapstick. It's insane. It's very cheap. It's stupid. All the beavers and all the animals of the movie are portrayed by people wearing mascot costumes. So like the bunny out of, like, I don't know, just this is ridiculous. You need to watch it, to be honest with you. It was very briefly at the cinemas. It is available on a couple of streaming platforms to purchase, of which I purchased it for about the sum total of about £8, and it was £8 well spent. Isaac enjoyed it as much as I did. It doesn't really have anything. There's a couple of bits you can chuckle at and they won't get. But on the whole, 90% of the time, it's actually perfectly kid-friendly. It's just slapsticky, stupid nonsense. And very amusing, and much more amusing than Deadpool Wolverine. I mean, this thing probably costs less than the catering budget of that movie. I'm fascinated to see what they do next, because this was brilliant. Your mileage, as I say, may vary, but that's Hundreds of Beavers. I quite enjoyed Hundreds of Beavers. Deadpool Wolverine was fine, but not as good as what Hundreds of Beavers, if I'm honest with you. There you go. That is that. That is this abbreviated video. I came back and other bits have been filmed and I bolted it together. Hopefully it's all there. Hopefully I'm not turning up again with a different shirt later on saying other stuff. Just went to go and shut off the camera and spotted the camera got so bored it turned itself off. I am unclear of when, at what point it did that. It could have been when I was waxing lyrical about Quackelope. It could have been when I was talking about Kickstarter. Could have been when I was remembering the 10 years of Scythe. Or it could have been while I was telling you to read the Necroscope books. We will find out. There may be a disjointed video. I will have appeared here now straight after something else. I might have to try and patch some of this stuff. Fuck my life. But for the time being, thanks for tuning in. This has been Who Dares Rolls. It's usual shit shower of a fucking video. Enjoy yourselves, have fun, enjoy the sun, which has come out briefly. One hopes to stay. And I'll be back soon in another video, or maybe even back in this one. Who fucking knows? What a another dog snoring. Ta-ta. Ta-ta.